obviously anybody who threw punches is going to have to suffer a suspension. That just comes with it. We understand that. But for this kid, DeSouza, that's how you pronounce his name, he needs to be suspended a minimum of 10 games. Minimum. For several reasons. Number one, he instigated it with the block shot and the taunting at the end of the game. You already beaten them by, 81-59? I believe that was the final score. So it's the block.
81-60, yeah.
So
Same
he
deal.
literally blocked the shot as time expired to end the game.
In all fairness, the other player stole the ball from him, which doesn't typically happen
Fine.
sometimes.
Right, they're dribbling out the clock.
Stay with
Yes.
me. Stay
I'm
with
with
me.
you.
I understand that. Bottom line is you won the game by 20, all right? You blocked the shot. You stand over him. You taunt him. That's not that big of a deal to me. It's kind of embarrassing, Bush League, but it is what it is. But the minute the fight breaks out, you picked up a chair. If that chair had not been grabbed by that assistant coach, what was you going to do? What were you going to do? See, right there is where it's automatic. And why do I say the 10 games and I bring up the chair? This is the same guy, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, handed a 2-year ban from the NCAA?
For taking money.
For taking money, which don't get me started with that because that was bogus. I mean, $2,500, but they're gonna sign a nearly $200 million deal with Adidas. That's ridiculous. I'm not faulting him for that. What I'm saying is, he was lucky to be playing because they ultimately rescinded. You understand, and elected to allow him to play this season. So you were lucky to be on the court this season, which means that you want to perform, but you also want to fly under the radar. Because it's the NCAA we're talking about here, as hypocritical as we all know them to be. So you got all of that working against you coming into the game, coming into the season. You get yourself into a fight, you throw blows, and then you pick up a chair. If that had not been grabbed by the assistant coach, what exactly were you going to do? That, to me, warrants a minimum 10-game suspension.
I had the same reaction as you upon first watching it. There's a visceral response to seeing a dude with a chair in like just a basketball fight. First of all, let me just start by saying this. This is not as big a deal as people are making it out to be, this whole thing. People brawl sometimes on teams. It happens. Jay, I heard you guys talking on Get Up this morning. Baseball and hockey, it's no big deal. It's part of the culture. Well, I wonder why that is. If it's college basketball, then it's a bigger issue. I will leave the racial component of that alone for a second. Guys brawl. That it spills over into the stands is bad. That's a little more severe. No one went after any fans, but it spilled over into the stands. But the image of the chair over the head is what I want to address. Whatever your visceral response is to that, on a gut level, I don't like that. I got to say something. You want to say he instigated and that deserves a little more penalty. You want an issue of a handful of game suspension, fine, not further than that. Everyone has moments in their life where there's a fork in the road, like this is a good decision or a bad decision. And sometimes you're about to make a bad decision. And maybe someone helps you, a mentor, a friend, circumstances, luck. And it pushes you in the right direction. And then you, instead of making the bad decision you were about to make, you made the good decision. You made the good decision. Whatever you were contemplating, you didn't actually do it. And not only do I think the kind of the culpability changes at that point, but also in terms of the way we punish that as a society, for lack of a better term. It's important to show when you make the right decision, you get rewarded for that. So that doesn't mean he doesn't get suspended. He does. If you want to make it a little stiffer than others because he started it, because he even had the chair up in the air, fine. But let's keep in mind, even if it was a coach holding it back for a second and that dissuaded him, and even if we imagine without holding it back, he would have done it, the fact is he didn't. There's going to be a lot of virtue signaling in the media, a lot of hand-wringing to show who can be the most outraged by this. I don't want to participate in that. I do think there should be some concern, right? We should say, no, bad, don't brawl like that and let it spill out in sense. Definitely don't lift a chair over your head, but let's not make it as though no one got hurt, he didn't swing the chair, etc.
Well, here's where I disagree respectfully, to some degree, because we're on the same page with the 10 games. Max, what I would say to you is this. We're all parents. And what you try to do is you teach your kids things so when they get older, they know better. Now, that doesn't mean you're always successful, but what I'm trying to say is that you're usually using things as a dissuasive measure in the earlier part of their life because you know they may be confronted by something later on, and therefore you know you have an idea of the lines that can't be crossed, okay? So understand the thinking. In the pro level, I recall the New York Knicks losing a playoff series because Patrick Ewing stepped a portion of his foot over the line. And David Stern, God rest his soul, I was at his memorial service yesterday at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. It was a wonderful service put forth by his family and paid for by James Dolan, by the way. The point that I'm trying to make to you is he stepped a foot over the line, and he was suspended, and Larry Johnson was
talking about the Jeff Van Gundy on whose leg was it?
No.
Alonzo Mourning?
No, I'm talking about, what was it? Was it that one? It was when you and all of them, it was against Miami, you and all of them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All
That was
I'm
Van Gundy on
all I'm
Alonzo's
trying to
leg.
say to you is this. Nothing really happened on their part, but they're grown men being paid millions of dollars. They're professional athletes. These are the letters of the law, and it needed to be followed. Why? As a deterrent for future generations to come to know better. You got college kids right now, and the imagery of that man having that chair over his head is going to leave an indelible mark. You must send the message. You can, under no, unfortunately, I don't like it, but unfortunately, they're going to show the image of the chair over his head. And the NCAA wants to make sure it's clear. Don't y'all even think about something like that. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.